So KSI left the Sidemen, and I know what you're thinking, yeah, we've heard this exact thing before. Because here's the thing that nobody really wants to talk about. This is not the first time KSI has made a Leaving the Sidemen video. Years ago, back when everything was chaotic and messy and the group was going through beef and drama, KSI sat in front of a camera, exhaled dramatically, and told the world he was done with the Sidemen. He blamed Ethan. He said he couldn't stand him. He walked around his smaller room, showed the camera the toilet and the wardrobe, rapped a bit, said F the Sidemen, and then basically rejoined within a week. The comment sections still remember. Back when we thought this was a dumb reason to leave the Sidemen. That comment aged beautifully, because now he's actually gone and it's a whole different thing entirely. This time there was no Ethan blaming, no bedroom tour. This time JJ sat down, took a deep breath, and made what he called the hardest video of his life. He said he'd been going back and forth on this decision for months, not weeks, months. He talked about 12, almost 13 years of his life being tied to these 6 men. He talked about selling out arenas, selling out stadiums, breaking records, making Netflix shows, building something none of them ever thought was possible. When they were playing GTA together as kids with no idea that tens of millions of people would one day be watching. He gave individual messages to every single member, Vic, Simon, Ethan, Josh, Harry, Toby, proper heartfelt stuff. He told Josh that he started YouTube because of him. He told Toby that when he quietly stopped drinking alcohol a few years back. Toby was one of the people who got him through it in ways he'd never fully understand. He got emotional. He stumbled over his words. He said the Sidemen deserved someone who could give 100%, and right now, he couldn't do that. The reason he gave was simple balance. He said he'd been running 100 miles an hour trying to be everything for everyone, trying to be everywhere, and somewhere along the way he lost himself. He said he needed to focus on his health. He needed to make time for his family. He needed to make time for his partner. And the Sidemen calendar, which Toby later explained brilliantly, is genuinely one of the most demanding things you can be locked into. Because it's not just your schedule, it's 7 people's schedules. Every single shoot requires all 7 of them to be free on the exact same day at the exact same time. That means your entire life organizes itself around that calendar first, and everything else, your family, your goals, your own projects, fits in around it. That's not a 9 to 5. That's a life structure. And KSI said something had to change. Now here's where it gets interesting, because the way he left, that's what really set the internet on fire. Not that he left, that he dropped the video on the 31st of May, the same day Toby and Ethan were doing soccer aid. The rest of the Sidemen didn't even know he was uploading it. No coordination, no group conversation about timing, no proper farewell planned with the boys. He just posted it. And that detail matters more than people are giving it credit for, because after 13 years, after everything those men built together, you'd think the exit would be handled with at least some kind of mutual agreement on how to announce it. Instead, the remaining 6 found out the same way the fans did, through a video going viral on the internet. The Sidemen put out a statement afterwards saying it came as a surprise to them. And when you look at the timing a bit more carefully, it reads like it was designed to maximize views. KSI dropped his leaving video the same day Soccer Aid was happening, an event getting attention, cameras rolling, Sidemen members already in the public eye, and his video sat right next to all of that coverage pulling eyes toward it. Whether that was intentional or not, fans weren't buying the coincidence. If KSI truly cared about a clean exit, he would have announced it on a Sidemen Sunday, instead of timing it to pull views away from his friends on one of their biggest charity days of the year. And honestly, it's hard to argue with the logic. And then KSI kept going, because leaving wasn't enough. He had to keep talking about it online afterward. He was putting out statements addressing the Sidemen directly. He changed his profile picture to an elephant. And if you know the context, the elephant was a reference, the elephant in the room, essentially KSI egging on the fans who were already upset, poking at the situation instead of letting things settle. Toby addressed it directly. He said the elephant had been fully addressed, letter written, full address, everything, which is the politest way a man has ever said, "We've said what we needed to say, please stop." The rest of the boys largely went quiet. No clapping back, no drama feeding, no posts, just silence. And fans genuinely respected that. The best way to deal with it, let the boys move forward without fueling the fire. Hats off to the other 6 for not engaging. Sidemen's official statement was measured. Calm, almost too calm. They said KSI's departure came as a surprise, that they wished him well, that this doesn't change anything for the remaining 6, and that they have exciting things planned. That's it. No emotion, no drama, just professional acknowledgement and a redirect forward. And a huge chunk of the fanbase responded by rallying around the remaining members in a way that honestly surprised even longtime followers of the group. Because for years there had been this assumption, said out loud by many, that the Sidemen were only as big as KSI, that he was the main attraction, that without him, the whole thing falls apart. and what happened after he left told a completely different story. The support for Vic, Simon, Ethan, Josh, Harry, and Toby was massive. People who hadn't watched in years came back. People said they'd stopped watching specifically because KSI's presence had shifted the energy of the group, and now they felt like they could return. One person said they could finally start watching Sidemen content again now that he was gone, and that comment got thousands of likes. That's not a fringe opinion. That reflects something genuine happening inside that fan base. KSI brought a lot of people to the Sidemen, that's undeniable, but over the years, as fans grew into the group, KSI became many people's least favorite member. He'd been absent from a lot of the videos for the past 2 years anyway. People had already gotten used to watching the boys without him. His departure, for a significant chunk of the community, wasn't a tragedy. It was a relief. And then there's the other thing people started saying. What is he actually leaving for? The stated reason was family, balance, personal time. The suspected reason, the one everyone was quietly thinking but a few people said loudly, is that people around JJ, management, advisors, whoever, had convinced him that the Sidemen were holding him back, that he had outgrown the group, that his ambitions were bigger than what the Sidemen format could contain. He's been hanging around Logan Paul and Mr. Beast, operating in a completely different league of content, the kind of big-budget, algorithm-chasing, faceless production line stuff that feels a million miles from the bedroom GTA days. Bro became a soulless Mr. Beast-style YouTuber and then left his friends, leaving your lifelong friends to create AI slop. The internet had its verdict quickly, and it wasn't kind. Speed, of all people, tried to call him live on stream the moment the news broke. Classic Speed, he wasn't sure if it was real, asked his chat 20 times if it was a prank, pointed out that KSI had done something similar before, and then just picked up the phone and WhatsApp called KSI while thousands of people watched. KSI answered, and instead of giving Speed any kind of clarity, he just immediately started going off, acting chaotic, calling people out and then hung up before Speed could even ask the actual question. Speed was genuinely frustrated. He said he was trying to check on his boy, trying to make him feel better, and KSI turned it into a troll moment, which maybe tells you everything you need to know about where KSI's head was at in those first few hours after dropping the biggest news of his YouTube career. What this whole situation revealed is something strange and telling. On one hand, it proved the Sidemen brand is bigger than any one member. The group is not going to collapse. The fans aren't going anywhere. On the other hand, the backlash toward KSI himself, the scale of it, the sheer volume of people who were more frustrated than sad, showed that his relationship with the fanbase had quietly eroded more than most people had admitted out loud. 13 years, stadiums, records, Netflix, and the most liked comment on his leaving video was essentially "See you next week in the Sidemen Sunday," 41,000 likes. That's not a fanbase in mourning. That's a fanbase that had been here before and wasn't going to be surprised twice. Whether KSI finds what he's looking for on the other side of this, the freedom, the balance, the bigger ambitions, only time will tell. But he left the door wide open behind him. And right now, the 6 boys still standing are the ones with the wind at their backs.